What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a classic video talking about the time that I accidentally dosed on acid before a job interview. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do, and also don't forget to follow me on Twitter if you guys haven't already. We're going to be doing more of those weed review, weed rating videos that I did the other day. The other one got age restricted, so if you guys haven't had a chance to see that yet, make sure to go check out my channel. Link will be in the description to that video. Go watch that. Follow me on Twitter. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this occurred a very long time ago. This was ages ago. This was like, oh my god. This happened so long ago that I genuinely can't give you like an exact date. All I know is this was about 4 years ago, because I know for a fact I wasn't 18. I remember being 17 when this occurred, specifically because this job required people to be 18, allegedly on the site, but they didn't care. But I'll get to that later, because I didn't get the job either way. But basically, how this went down was it was a pretty standard night, and it was the night before a job interview that I had completely forgotten about, right? I didn't have any big plans on this night, and I was just kind of staying home, playing some games with friends, and I decided that I was going to dose, right? I was like, fuck it, I feel like tripping, let's watch some Netflix tonight, watch some YouTube videos, maybe chill out, have a fun little gaming night, have a nice little trip, and then in the morning, I'll go to bed, right? So I end up popping 2 tabs pretty late at night, around like maybe I want to say like 2 in the morning or so, because like I said, like I had no plans to do anything. Like I didn't realize I had a job interview the next day. I didn't realize I had anything big coming out. I thought I was just going to be staying up till like noon, playing games, tripping balls, and then I'd eventually lay down and fall asleep like the next night or something. So I'm chilling. The trip is going. Like, the trip itself, I'm not going to talk about much because there's nothing special about this. For those guys who have watched a lot of my past acid videos, you guys know that I was someone who actually really enjoyed, like, not doing shit on trips. A lot of people try to, orchestrate these big plans and plan out their acid trips and be like, oh, let's go walk through the woods and let's watch this movie and, like, here's this playlist I made. For me, I always would just wing it. Like, if I was sitting at my computer in the middle of a game of Counter-Strike and I got a couple good kills, I would celebrate by just slamming a couple tabs on my tongue and letting it happen. Like, that was how I operated with psychedelics especially, and that's kind of how I go through life. Honestly, I don't really plan anything. I just do shit. But either way, so I drop these tabs, I go through the night playing, it's all fine and dandy. I go through the night gaming. It's fine, it's whatever, dude. We're playing some games, me and my buddies, I'm watching some Netflix. It's literally my textbook trip from, like, all my other videos. I did the same general thing on most of my trips when I was at home, right? And the morning rolls around, the sun comes up, I'm still sitting there gaming like a crackhead, having a good old time. By this point, I remember all my homies were done, and the sun had come up, and I was just sitting there like solo queuing. I used to love playing Counter-Strike when I was tripping. For some reason, I had fun, like, not only with the game when I was tripping, but interacting with people in the game was entertaining as hell while I was tripping balls. So, the sun came up, and I got a text. And I remember, I never really checked my phone very often, so I checked this text maybe like 30 minutes to an hour after I got it. And it was from the manager chick at this place. I'll explain what kind of job this was in just a minute once I get to that part. But it was from the manager that was going to be interviewing me, and she's like, hey, just confirming, are we still good for today? I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm the kind of person where, like, I don't know, once I plan things, I'm very bad. Like, I'll never say no once I make a plan. Like, if things change, I will do my best to not alter that plan at someone else's expense, So, like, even with job interviews, things as small as that, I will crash my car before I say no to that job interview. So, I didn't end up driving. No one hated on me. I didn't crash my fucking car. But nevertheless, I replied to her text. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're good. And then I realized, like, it kind of hits me. I'm like, wait. What have I just agreed to? Like, what did I just get myself into? Because listen, okay? This was a job where it wasn't like a grocery store. It wasn't like a McDonald's, right? Like being there got me the job, right? Like this was an interview where I had to put like some thought into it, which was evident because I didn't get a call back. But essentially what this company was, there was actually two of these companies that I applied for, and both of these different interviews I showed up fucked up. I think I made a video about the other one too. I'm not sure, but this was a company, and it was like a call center kind of job that I was applying for, where I was trying to sell pet insurance. There was another company where it was like a pet toy bundle, like a kind of like a loot box, but like for your dog. It was like one of those companies that I interviewed at, and then this was like pet insurance. So similar industry, right? Like both the pet market. I don't know why, but when I was going on Indeed, going through jobs, I was just literally slamming my resume at everything. And these pet sales jobs were ringing my line, dude. They liked my credentials. So either way, I'm like, oh yeah, for sure, I'm good for this interview, right? And our interview was scheduled for 9:30, right? And it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'm kind of panicking. I'm tripping balls. Like, I'm not coming. Like, I'm still tripping just fine, dude. I'm not coming down. I'm like, I wouldn't say at my peak, but I just passed my peak, right? Like I'd been done with my peak by like 2 hours, but I easily had another like 3 to 4 hours left before I even began truly sobering up and coming down, right? So I'm like, oh shit. I'm trying to figure out what to do. And I remember, even though I had like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get ready, I was so overwhelmed and like panicking that it shut my whole trip down. It killed my whole trip. It went from just a really chill, normal, fun trip to all of a sudden, I'm freaking the fuck out while I'm tripping balls. So I pop out of my room, I fly into my bathroom, get my shower going and stuff. And luckily, I wasn't like, the visuals weren't too intense for me to function, you know? Like, I've gone to school tripping long before I did this. I'd done plenty of things in public tripping, so this was not a big deal. I was not scared of, like, being in public tripping. I was scared of not getting the job, because at this point, I was fucking broke, and I really needed a job, like, really fucking bad. So I was like, fuck, dude. I gotta figure something out. And also, at this point, I want to also point out that this was a bit weaker than the typical acid that I was doing. This was not from Ashton. This was not my standard stuff. This is still good acid, but it was not from my standard acid plug. So these two tabs did not hit me as hard as my typical two tabs. This was like a walk in the park kind of trip for me, right? But still, I'm tweaking out hard enough where there's no way this job interview is going to go well. So I hop in the shower. I'm showering. I get ready. I remember I had to put on simple clothes because I remember opening my closet, and instead of like grabbing one of the button downs, like after I got ready, instead of grabbing, I have a bunch of like nice like Ralph Lauren button down shirts that you tuck in with a belt, you know, for job interviews and like, you know, if I ever went to church or anything, those kind of shirts. I was looking at those. The patterns were scaring me. I couldn't fucking do it. I couldn't do it. So I had this little section of my closet where I had a couple like plain like Tommy Hilfiger sweaters that my mom got me for like a funeral a couple of years ago. And I was like, fuck it, dude. I'm throwing them on. So I threw on one of those like little sweaters. I threw on some khakis. And I remember I didn't think ahead. And I just threw on some like really standard shoes. Like my interview outfit was awful. I was wearing the Tommy. Oh, I forgot my favorite part. Holy shit. I wore a Gucci belt. I wore a fucking Gucci belt. I forgot that part. That is why I remember there was like some reason why I was going into the outfit part so in depth. And like as I was talking here, I forgot it. And I just remembered it. The fucking Gucci belt. Picture me, all right? You guys know what I look like. Tommy Hilfiger plain sweater. Tan like khaki pants. A Gucci belt. A Gucci fucking belt. It was like it was not like a boring colored one either. It was like pink, dude. Like it listen, I was wearing a strange little belt, okay? And then my Jordans, right? I tried to slip on like a nicer pair of Jordans, like not like too basketball-y, but nevertheless, these were Jordans, okay? There's no getting around that. Anybody looking at them could tell me I should not have worn these to the interview. So I throw this ridiculous fucking outfit on. And by this point, I've been running around my house so much that I'm sweating balls, dude. So I remember I turn on my fan and stand in front of it to like stop me from sweating because I have long hair. And naturally, I sweat a little bit, right? I get sweaty more easily than most people, right? So I'm sitting there and I got the fan blasting in my face because for some reason I'm just sweating balls and nothing I'm doing is stopping it. And I hop on Uber and I get an Uber. And luckily, this place is maybe like a 6-minute ride down the street. But like I could not ask my mom for a ride. She would have known I was tweaking out. I could have pulled the, oh, I'm nervous, but she would have known. So I call an Uber. This Uber pulls up. Luckily, back in high school, I used to always do this thing where I would make a new account. Uber used to offer this thing where you could get like a $20 discount for your first ride with like no minimum purchase. Like if your ride was $19, you just got it free on a new account. But the thing is, the only requisites for a new account was a new email, right? And I don't even think it was a phone number back then. I think it was still email if I remember correctly. So I would just keep cranking out new emails and making new Uber accounts, right? And just getting free rides. So I remember I had one of those accounts ready to rumble because I was broke back then, dude. I wasn't paying for Ubers. Come the fuck on. I had a Gucci belt, but I wasn't paying for Ubers. I'm pretty sure I used like half my mom's Christmas money for that. But either way, nevertheless, so I call this Uber. Uber pulls up. I hop in, dude. We fucking gun it, dude. We're out of there. We're out the jam. And this was back when Uber was in its like infancy. Like Lyft had just become a thing. Uber was like just now a popular thing, you know? So I hop in this Uber, and the guy's kind of making small talk with me. And luckily it's just kind of a younger guy because when Uber first started, right? Uber drivers were all like really young, like people, kind of like myself, right? It was all just like very young, tech savvy people because old people didn't know what the fuck Uber was, right? Like they had no idea. They were still calling the cab, right? So back then, almost all the Uber drivers you actually would like to talk to, right? Like they were people like me back then, right? But nowadays it's very different. Nowadays Ubers are just cab drivers, literally, you know? It's just an open-ended cab job. But either way, so I hop in this Uber, we're chatting a little bit. I don't tell this guy that I'm tripping. And, you know, I was good enough at the conversation where I was kind of gauging that conversation to tell myself whether or not I was ready for this interview. And he didn't ask me if I was intoxicated. So I figured that was a good sign. But I was sweating balls the whole time. So finally, he drops me off. And I don't know what I'd envisioned, but I envisioned this place to be some grand, you know, beautiful, you know, multi-story office building making big pet money. And it was. When I looked them up on Google Maps the day before, it was this big office building. What I didn't take into account was the fact that they just rented out like the smallest little storage closet office space in the area and called that their office, right? Like from the outside, I thought the whole building was them, and I was like, "Oh, this looks legit." Stupid me should have known better. Of course, it's like some little back closet on the fucking first floor, right? So, of course, I go back there. I walk in. They got a front desk lady, and I kid you not, guys. All call centers pretty much look the same, but this one was particularly bleak. The walls were gray. The cubicles were a different shade of gray. The chairs were black. The desks were, once again, a different shade of gray. There was only one thing giving color to this office, and it was an inflatable palm tree that was in the back corner and then in the corner of, like, every, like, manager's office, because they had all the cubicles and there was, like, 2 managers' offices, right? So I check in, and at this point, it like, the panic is really starting to hit me because, listen, I never stopped tweaking out from this trip, right? Like, I never got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm calm, I'm ready for this interview, because I was tripping, and when you're tripping, your emotions control your entire trip. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at, you know, I didn't really have time or give myself time to, like, feel the acid. I didn't give myself time during this whole process of getting ready for the job interview to feel how it was affecting my trip until I sit down and wait for my interview. There's like 3 other people in front of me, and I finally get to catch a breath and sit down and be like, oh, I made it. I'm here. And then the trip begins, like really begins. I look over at this other girl who's sitting there waiting for an interview. And I must have looked like the craziest man on earth because her pupils kept getting bigger and bigger. And like, it was the strangest thing, right? Like I looked at this girl, right? And she like looks back at me and then like looks away, but I just keep staring at her. I remember this vividly. And her pupils just kept getting bigger, right? Until like her whole eye was like covered in like just her pupil, and it was the craziest thing ever. And I remember just sitting there like infatuated with this, just staring at this girl like, what the fuck, dude? And I don't know if she ever stared back at me. I don't know. I didn't process that part, but I remember at least for probably 10 of the 20 minutes that I sat waiting for my interview was spent staring at this chick. So obviously, I think before I even went in the interview room, I already didn't have the job because I was creeping people out. And I'm dripping sweat too. Like, I kid you not. There may have very well been like a sweat stain on my chair. Like, I was sweating balls. So finally, they come out and they call me in before this girl who's waiting. Like, I was like the first one they called in. I figured they just wanted to get my dumb ass out of there. They're probably like, dude, this guy's tweaking out. Call him in. So they call me in for the interview, and I sit across from this woman who is a little overdressed for what this is. It's this woman who, she's in like one of those like women's like suit jackets with like the skirt, you know, and they wear like the heels, and like she looked like she was going to work for the State Department. And I'm like, listen, we're selling pet insurance, like, you are really overdressing. Like, the cost of this chick's outfit probably was more than all the sales this building did today. Like, that, like, come on, bro. Chill. So either way, she gives me this interview. And for those of you guys who have worked in sales, all these like entry-level sales jobs are always the same interview. They ask you like scenario questions that are very easy to answer. Like, if a customer's calling back and unhappy and wants a refund, what do you do? And then how you make that customer happier? And like, what are your 3 main goals when serving the customer? Like, just a bunch of bullshit questions like that. And I remember one of the questions, I literally didn't have an answer. I've never done this on an interview before, right? I'm very good at, like, bullshitting interviews. I never prepare. I just go in and talk, right? Because I'm good at talking. I've sat here talking to you motherfuckers for over 17 minutes now. So clearly I'm competent enough at speaking. But nevertheless, when I'm doing this interview, there was one question that I just could not wrap my head around. She was asking me this, like, really specific scenario question about, like, a customer calls in and they had insurance on their pet and their pet passed away. And like, it was like this huge scenario, and all I could think about was, like, the pet dying. All I could think about was, like, oh my God, their dog died. Like, I completely lost the fact that this was an interview. And I got so lost in thought of, like, oh my God, their dog died, that when she asked me this question, I remember my first answer initially, she thought I misheard her. My first answer initially was, well, I tell them I'm very sorry for their loss. And I remember she's like, well, that's a good start. It was like she was guiding like a special needs kid through like a calculus course, me with this interview. Like, it was just the worst nightmare of a job interview ever. So finally, I remember the question just got skipped. She tried to like prompt me again. I just wasn't having it. And my trip seemed to get more like intense throughout the interview. Like, I don't want to say intense, but like I seemed to get more really out of it. Like, I don't know what it was, but my headspace was just gone during this. Like, leading up to the interview, no problem, dude. I got ready just fine. I was gaming. But as soon as this happened, it completely sent my trip into a spiral to hell, dude. It was fucked up. So after that question, I remember the interview getting wrapped up pretty quickly. And I go ahead and leave. And I remember standing in the lobby and calling this Uber. And I get another Uber back home, you know, different driver, of course, and I Uber back home. And after I got back home, I remember the first thing I did was I literally just ripped all of my clothes off. And I went and stood in the shower for like an hour and a half because I was sweating balls. I was so uncomfortable. I took a freezing cold shower and just stood there. And I remember it really helped me calm down because even on the ride home, I was still like not feeling the best. And I was feeling very like tweaked out. I remember I was like hanging my head out the fucking Uber's back window like a dog, dude. And, you know, once I got home and hopped in the shower, I felt a lot better, but I never got a call back. And I don't think I'm very surprised or ever was very surprised about that part. I never expected one, but hey, at least I went for it. I do give myself some commendment for showing up to that because my God, that they probably still talk about me. But nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely on the longer side. Drop a like if you did. Be sure to tune in to stream tonight. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.